Hello, welcome to my latest video. As you can see, it's another oil riverscape. If you like the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps out a lot, and please enjoy. Thank you. First of all, I'm just doing a rough sketch of the scene. It's a fairly simple scene, so I don't need much detail. And then a very quick blocking of all the mid-tones and the rough shapes in the scene. You could go into a little more detail and be a bit more careful at this stage, but I haven't bothered. Now for the painting proper, and I'm putting a graduation from a deep blue to a pale blue and blending it all together. And while I've still got the paint on the palette, I've added some same colour into the river. Now with the clouds here, I've mixed up a mid-tone, the highlight colour and the shadow colour, and I'm just splodging it on the board quite crudely. And when that's done, I go over with the makeup brush to blend it all together, and then do it again. Every time you go around, you add a little bit more subtlety and detail to the clouds. So you can keep doing this until you're happy. Here I've got a tiny little blender to do the final part to the cloud. Now I'm laying in a very simple background hills, just basically two colours. Now for the trees and bushes I'm going to do next, I've mixed up a very thin wash of a mixed black, and I've just splodged them in with the texture brush. And now with a fine rigger, I'm just putting on the slight details in the trees, going every layer going a little bit lighter. And here just up in the contrast bit by putting some blacks in there. Here I've got a darker colour, not quite the darkest in the tree, but close, and I'm sort of designing the shape of the tree. I'm keeping an eye on the reference photos, but I have changed the shape quite a bit from the reference, but you just keep an eye on how trees are constructed. In its crudest form, a tree is just a sort of collection of sticks with balls on the end. And when you're putting the highlight on, you keep that in mind. For these trees on the left here, it's basically the same process again. I'm putting most of this detail in with a flat brush, just using the corner. These trees on the left are seem to be quite a bit darker than the others. I think that a lot of that is down to the leaf colours actually darker. It must be a different species of tree. Merging in with some smaller trees or bushes lower down. But same process, start off quite dark and then keep layering lighter and lighter. Now I've decided now's a good time to get the main reflections of the river. It's quite a windy day, so there's a lot of ripples, so you don't see much reflections. But here I've put some basic reflections into that I will almost cover up, but a little bit of it will stay visible and give you the illusion of a reflection. The trees definitely come alive once you've put the highlights on. Plus, when you put the highlights on, you can assess whether you've got your darks dark enough, because quite often you haven't. Now I'm finishing the river off I'm using I'm not sure what you call it. It's a brush that's got lots of separated hairs. I think you call it a rake. I'm using that to put lots of little dashes all over to simulate the ripples. Although now I've changed to a rigger to get a little bit more precise control. It's quite a simple process really, just a bit laborious. Just lots and lots of little dashes. Here again with the texture brush. It's let's have a look. It's a rosemary tree and texture brush, and it's just to get a bit of texture in the background to the trees. And while that was drying, I just shoved some colour in the grass with a fan brush. Which didn't give me a very good easy task with this tree because the grass at the moment is still wet, so I couldn't rest my hand on there. Whenever you've got a good colour on the palette that's could be used for some other parts of the painting, I often sort of just pull it down rather than wasting it. because the paints I'm using here are fast drying alkyds, so you can't paint for that long before they become unworkable. They sort of go all a bit sticky, but it does mean you can do many layers in a matter of days, rather than having to wait 3 to 4 days between layers. Everything now is being done with the rigger. And it's just looking closely at the reference photo for mixing your colours and just spotting it on. Now with the rigger here, I'm putting a few grass strokes just to give you the illusion of grass. I'm not painting every blade by a long way. Most of that grass is has been done very quickly with the fan. More of the thinned out black with the texture brush. Now this tree here is almost in silhouette, so I've gone for a very dark neutral green to get the initial leaves in. This, what I'm painting at the moment, is actually a tree behind the one you can see. It's just poking out, so I've given it a little slightly different colour. Now this main tree here with which is mostly in shadow, I'm not going to go as light, but you can still see the structure. It's not a total silhouette. See just the odd spot of a light colour as the sun made its way through. Plus, it happened very quickly there. You may have noticed I put a few sky holes in the middle of the tree, just to lighten up the mass a bit. And that's a simple matter of mixing a sky colour and painting it over top. That's the beauty of oils. They've got fantastic covering power, so I could put the light sky colour straight over almost black without any problem. Now this tree on the left is slightly different because it's so much closer and you can really see the individual leaves here and lots of branches. So I'm still treating it like everything else. You start off dark and then keep building it up with lighter and lighter layers. And while I'm here, I'm using unthinned, it is thinned a little with thinners, but it can cover quite well. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Please consider liking and subscribing. See you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.